My name is Corinne Voss. I'm 24. I graduated with top honors from Emory last Friday. Walked across the stage alone while other families cried and clapped in rows. Mine sent silence. Not even a seat saved. That night, they sent a photo. Champagne flutes raised at Palm Coast Yacht Club. My parents smiling. Connor in the center, tanned, golden, smug. A new boat behind them. The Eleanor has arrived. That was the caption. The same yacht I hadn't heard a single word about. Until 2 hours later, when I got an email from the bank. $45,000. Due by the end of the month. Insurance, shipment, registration fees. The paperwork had my name on it. I blinked. Clicked the PDF. Scanned again. Owner, Corinne Voss. Primary lender, Ameribank Coastal Branch. Initial signature date, April 3rd. I wasn't even in Georgia on April 3rd. I was in Atlanta, finishing my capstone presentation on cyber fraud. I called my dad. Voicemail. I called my mom. She picked up and hung up. Connor texted, "Don't make this a thing. You know you're better at handling these." Handling what, Connor? A yacht I didn't buy? A signature I didn't write? I pulled up my records. Nothing. No authorization. No logged loan application. But the e-signature platform? It showed a signed PDF. Linked to my old college email. Someone used it to sign with a stylus. Sloppy. Too fast. No rhythm. I opened the metadata viewer. IP address 192.168.0.45. Location, Savannah, Georgia. Time, 3:17 p.m. Device ID, Wallace Vossamack. You never see it coming when it's wearing your last name. I sat back. Cold crept into my palms. Not fear, just recognition. They hadn't come to graduation. But they used me to buy a yacht. I checked the address used for correspondence. C/O, the Voss Estate, Wilmington Island. So bold. So confident. I dropped my coffee. Mug cracked. Liquid bled across the floor, like some slow confession. There's something you learn when you spend 4 years studying cybercrime. The lie isn't in the signature. It's in who thinks they'll get away with it. Outside, the sun dipped below the coast. Boats moved on glassy water. The Eleanor gleamed like an expensive mistake. I reopened the email. There was a second attachment. A scanned maintenance receipt. $4, $200 already paid. My name again. My card, of course. No authorization. No alert. And just like that, it clicked. They used my backup credit line. One I'd never activated, but was linked to the family trust. I hadn't touched it since sophomore year. But they had. They never asked. They never do. I went cold. I opened my encrypted notes folder. Started typing. I did not authorize this transaction. I did not sign the loan. I will not be responsible. There was a sound outside. A light blinked off across the street. Was that a silhouette? I blinked again. Gone. Paranoia? Or timing? My laptop buzzed. A new text. From an unknown number. Handle it like you always do. Quietly. I turned the camera on my laptop upward, slowly scanning the room. Nothing. But I didn't feel alone. Not anymore. They didn't come to graduation. But they used my name to buy a Fing yacht. At 6:04 a.m., I walked into Ameribank Coastal's downtown Savannah branch. Still in yesterday's clothes. No sleep. Just spite. Loan services. I asked the woman at the front desk, my voice sharp enough to slice the floral in her perfume. She looked me up and down. Do you have an appointment? I smiled without smiling. No, but I do have a $45,000 problem that's wearing my name like a mask. So unless you want to be part of a federal complaint, I suggest you find someone above entry level. Pause. She tapped a few keys. Please wait over there. Mr. Halpern will see you shortly. Halpern looked like someone who didn't get his hands dirty. Gold cufflinks tied too tight, smile too easy. He ushered me into a glass box of an office, the kind designed to feel open but still trap you. "You're Miss Corinne Voss." "I was yesterday," I said. "Not sure who I am today. Depends on which version of me signed a loan I never saw." He cleared his throat. "We've reviewed the file. The documents were processed through our internal system. You're listed as the primary owner of a registered marine vehicle, the Eleanor. Loan signed electronically, secured through your secondary credit line, linked to a family trust account. All legal." My jaw didn't tighten. It calcified. The device used to sign that loan? It was registered to Wallace Voss's home Wi-Fi. His eyes twitched. That was the first crack. I handed over my printed metadata log. IP address, timestamps, MAC ID. Halpern scanned it, blinked slower. "That device isn't yours." "No," I said, "unless I've started telepathically connecting to my father's iMac from 3 counties away." He hesitated. "This might have been delegated." "That's not a word the law recognizes." A pause. "We'll open a review." "No. You'll open a fraud investigation. You'll freeze the loan immediately and flag any connected transfers." His face changed. From bank officer to man in the middle. Someone whose golf buddies just got linked to something they thought would stay clean. I stood. He didn't. Outside, the humidity wrapped around me like plastic. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from a number I didn't know. Then a text. "Drop it. You'll regret it if you go further." No name. Just the words. Cold. Clean. Confident. The kind of threat that doesn't come from panic, but from preparation. I started walking faster. People think being afraid means weakness. But fear is just the body calculating risk. Panic is when you don't act. I was acting. Back home, I logged into my dark ops email. Not the one I used for work. The one I'd built during my sophomore year when I started poking around inside data breaches like they were puzzles meant for me. I traced the IP from the text. It was masked, obviously. But the masking pattern? It matched a protocol I'd seen once. 2 years ago. In a data dump related to luxury asset laundering through shell companies in Florida and Georgia. Yachts. Private jets. Golf course properties. The Eleanor's registration pinged on my screen. I cross-referenced the hull ID. Owner history, blank before April. I dug deeper. Found a ghost entity in Boca Raton tied to the same hull number 6 months earlier. Company dissolved. Offshore account link. The Eleanor wasn't just a birthday toy for Connor. It was a financial shadow vessel. I exhaled. Not because I was calm, but because my lungs needed permission to keep going. Then I did what I do best. I started building a trap. LLC registration. My name. My jurisdiction. Delaware shell. Clean legal. Tied it to my professional EAN. Used the bank documents. Repurposed the loan. Legally acquired the lien. If they wanted to play games in my name, fine. I'd play back. But now I own the battlefield. That night I didn't sleep. I sat by the window, light off, watching the reflection of the city ripple on the river. I remembered something my mentor once said. Power isn't loud. It's quiet. It's in the paperwork people don't read. At 3:13 a.m., my screen lit up. A message. Encrypted. From Dylan Mercer. "We hadn't spoken since college. We need to talk. Now. That yacht isn't just yours. It's on our watch list." I stared at the blinking cursor. My heartbeat wasn't fast, it was exact. If they want to play rich people games, I'll play back. But this time I set the rules. Dylan met me at the edge of the marina just after dawn. He wore a windbreaker, shades, and that off-duty Fed energy, half paranoia, half permission. "I shouldn't be seen talking to you," he said, barely looking at me. "Then talk fast," I shot back. "What do you know about the Eleanor?" He exhaled. "More than I should. Less than I want. It popped on our radar during a sweep of offshore to domestic luxury transfers. Shell company to family member. Classic laundering pattern. Thing is, your name wasn't supposed to be there. That's why I called. Thanks, I said flatly. That makes me feel so much better about being the final dump point for a dirty yacht. He rubbed the back of his neck. They didn't expect you to check. No one ever does. That's the trick, isn't it? Hide it in plain sight. Dress it in privilege. People call it a gift, not a crime. Dylan didn't argue. Whatever you're planning, he added, make sure you're 10 steps ahead. These people don't panic. They erase. Cut scene. That night, Connor threw a launch party on the Eleanor. Dozens of guests. Suits, sequins, champagne. Fake laugh people. The kind who smile too much and ask too little. I stayed in the shadows. I wasn't invited. Didn't matter. From a secure line, I'd already triggered the sequence. FinCEN alert cross-check asset flag Coast Guard collaboration maritime hold. By 9:37 p.m., the Eleanor was listed as a vessel under inquiry. By 10:12, the Coast Guard boat drifted in, quiet, official, unmissable. By 10:15, the music cut. Connor's voice echoed, drunk and cocky. There's some mistake, officer? This is my family's boat. One officer stepped forward. Sir, we have orders to secure the vessel. We need to inspect registration, ownership documentation, and pending liens. Connor laughed. Then they showed him the lien. My LLC. My name. The shift in his face, it wasn't confusion. It was recognition. He knew. The whole time. I watched from the dock. Rain started falling, light, needling. The kind that soaks quietly. Flashbulbs went off. A blogger had tipped the press. The Eleanor seized an overnight raid. My phone vibrated. A call from my father. I let it ring. Then my mother. Voicemail. Corinne, what did you do? This is going to destroy everything. I whispered into the dark. That's the point. The next day, I received a letter. Not an email. A printed, signed letter delivered to my apartment. Wallace Voss, ESQ, Voss, Lear and Haywood attorneys at law. The letter was short. Cease all defamatory action. Retract any claims. Reassign the lien to our estate counsel. Failure to comply will result in litigation for reputational damages and financial misconduct. I read it once. Then again. Then I laughed. Sharp. Dry. Too loud. Reputational damages. What did they think a forged loan, a ghost company, and a yacht seizure were? A branding error? My door buzzer rang. I froze. 2 men in tailored suits. No badges. No expressions. Private security. Or worse. I didn't answer. Just watched. They didn't knock. They left something in the mailbox. I waited 10 minutes. Slipped down the stairs. It was another envelope. Inside a photo. Me. From 2 nights ago. Standing outside the marina. Watching. Eyes are everywhere. No signature. No watermark. Just fear. That night, I sent a second email to Dylan. Encrypted. They've escalated. I'm not backing down. I've filed to purchase full default rights under the lien. It's mine now. Let them sue. Let the public see it all. 10 minutes later, he responded. Corinne, there's something I haven't told you. The Eleanor wasn't just flagged. It was used in another transaction 6 weeks ago. You need to see this file. In person. I felt then. That gut-thin needle of betrayal. People don't hide truth because it's complicated. They hide it because it implicates them. The next morning, I walked into the family's law office, unannounced. 3 partners in the waiting room stood when they saw me. One tried to speak. I brushed past. Wallace was in the conference room, talking to someone on speaker. His voice dropped when he saw me. You need to get out, he said, eyes cold. No, I said calm. You need to understand this isn't a family feud. It's a hostile takeover. Connor stood in the corner, red-eyed, fists clenched. You wouldn't actually go through with it, he hissed. We're your family. No, I said. You're my liability. I dropped the final notice of lien transfer on the table. Signed, notarized, filed. From now on, every missed payment, every legal action, every inquiry, it would come from me. You built a throne on my silence. Now I'm pulling the whole thing down. The day after the confrontation at the law office, Savannah felt sharper. Edges on everything. Heat, shadows, glances. Even the river looked like a blade slicing the city in half. I woke to pounding on my door. 3 knocks. A pause. 2 more. Not police, too tentative. Not neighbors, too bold. I didn't move. I watched through the peephole. A man in a navy suit. Another beside him. Same 2 from yesterday. Private security. Hired intimidation. The kind paid to smile while breaking your ribs. I backed away from the door. They slipped a thin envelope beneath it. Inside, a typed note. This can end if you end it. Stop the filings. Reassign the lien. Or we escalate. Underneath the note was a USB drive. Black. Unmarked. A dare. I stared at it like it might detonate. Then I plugged it into a quarantined laptop. Cut scene. 1 video file. I clicked. Grainy footage. A dim room. Wood paneling framed nautical maps. My father's study. Connor lounged in a leather chair, spinning slowly. Wallace stood over the desk, signing papers. The angle shifted. Wallace held up a document. My loan agreement. He said something I couldn't fully make out. But I caught one line, clear as a blade. She'll never check. She never does. Connor laughed. And then my signature appeared on the screen. Not printed. Drawn. Wallace signed it himself with a stylus mimicking my hand. The date stamp marked 6 weeks before my graduation. I didn't breathe. There it was. The truth I already knew, but hadn't seen carved into pixels. Fraud. Deliberate. Pre-planned. Premeditated betrayal. Someone filmed it. Someone who wanted me to see it. But who? And why send it now? I scrubbed through the footage. Around the 1:43 mark, a shadow crossed the corner of the frame. Someone holding the recording device. A sleeve. Cufflink glint. Not Connor. Not Wallace. Someone else was in the room. Someone embedded. A whisper in my mind. Power isn't loud. It's hidden in the rooms you're never invited into. I saved the file. Double-backed it. Encrypted it. Then hid 3 copies in 3 separate secure servers. The moment I closed the laptop, a floorboard creaked behind me. Spoon. Nothing. Just the apartment settling. Or someone moving away from the window. My heart hit high alert. The idea that I was being watched no longer felt like paranoia. It felt like agenda. Cut scene. I called Dylan. He picked up on the first ring. Too fast. You saw it, he said. Not a question. You knew, I replied. You knew there was more. Silence. Then, Corinne, things are bigger than you think. That's funny, I said. Someone once told me the same thing about the ocean right before a storm sank their boat. Listen, he said urgently. Your father isn't the only one exposed if that video goes public. That room, the person holding that camera, those connections, there are people who cannot afford scrutiny. And I'm supposed to care because they'll come for you. I let that sit. No fear. Just calculation. Send me the rest of the files, I said. I can't. You already hid the truth once. Not again. His breath hitched. Corinne, stop. You don't know who you're provoking. Oh, I think I do. I hung up. Cut scene. At noon, I went to the courthouse to finalize the lien transfer documentation. Filing clerks watched me the way people watch a fuse burn. Curious but ready to duck. 2 signatures. 1 stamp. A legal shift of power. Every financial consequence tied to the Eleanor now flowed to me. Every missed payment. Every inquiry. Every lawsuit. Control is quiet, but its echo is loud. Walking out, I caught a reflection in the glass door. A man in a gray coat standing across the street. Watching. Not moving. When I turned fully around, a truck passed between us. He vanished. Escalation. Always escalation. By sunset, another message slid into my inbox. Anonymous again, this time with a still frame from the video. But the image wasn't of my father signing. It was zoomed in on the shadow in the corner. A face partially lit, almost recognizable. Under it, one line. He wasn't filming to expose them. He was filming to protect himself. My pulse ticked faster. Was the person behind the camera helping me, or setting me up as the fall? Someone inside my family circle had secrets darker than the forged loan. Secrets worth blackmail, or burying. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. One sentence. You're digging in a graveyard. Don't be surprised when something grabs back. My breath stopped just long enough to feel the danger settle around me, like fog. If I'm not careful, I won't just lose the case. I'll lose the story, and they'll write the ending for me. The fog rolled in thick over Tybee shoreline, swallowing the horizon until ocean and sky looked like one unbroken threat. Dylan waited near the rocks, hood up, hands in pockets, shifting like someone expecting a sniper to bloom on his chest. You came alone, he asked. No, I said. I brought every version of myself you underestimated. His jaw tightened. Corinne, this isn't a joke. You're in the middle of a current you don't understand. Then explain it, I said, stepping closer. Because your half-truths keep circling me like sharks. If you want me to stop digging, tell me what's buried. He hesitated. The wind snapped hard. Somewhere behind us, metal clanged, harbor chains knocking against the dock. And then Dylan said it. The Eleanor wasn't just flagged. It was used in a cash-to-asset transfer 6 weeks ago. Offshore to domestic. Your father's signature isn't the only forged one. Another agent tried to blow the whistle, and that agent disappeared. Cut scene. My skin went cold. Disappeared. We don't know if they ran, or were helped to run, or he didn't finish. I felt the weight drop in my stomach, heavy as an anchor. And you hid this from me. I was trying to protect you. You were trying to protect yourself, I shot back. That video, the one of my father forging my signature? Someone filmed it. Someone who wanted leverage. Let me guess. Your agency wants that camera holder too. Dylan didn't deny it. You're playing both sides, I said. FinCEN on one hand, my family on the other. He stepped forward. Corinne, listen. No. You listen. I've been used my whole life. As the daughter. As the buffer. As the financial scapegoat. And now you think you can use me as a witness you can manage? Not happening. Wind. Waves. Silence thick enough to choke on. He looked past me, toward the pier where the Eleanor sat in legal purgatory, roped off, watch silent. You need to see the file, he said. The agent who recorded your father, he listed one more name. A financier tied to the yacht clubs between Boca and Savannah. Someone who funded the shell companies. Who? I demanded. He swallowed once. Your brother. It hit like a punch. I stepped back. Connor? No. He can't even balance a checkbook. That's the point, Dylan said quietly. He's the perfect face. Too stupid to suspect. Too privileged to question. Too protected to accuse. My heart pounded, slow but brutal. Why tell me now? Because you're about to expose a network that doesn't tolerate exposure, Dylan said. And they will come for you before they come for him. Cut scene. He handed me a folder. Real paper. Not digital. Inside, email transfers. Password-protected accounts. Connor's signature on a receipt tied to the same offshore entity that once owned the Eleanor's Hull ID. He wasn't just a beneficiary. He was involved. My lungs fought for air. Every memory of him. Spoiled golden boy, smug, careless, cruel, locked into a clearer shape. People aren't born liabilities. They're trained. He knew, I whispered. He knew from the start. Dylan nodded. Your father groomed him into it. They needed a fall guy younger than Wallace. Someone with your clean record tethered to his. I felt something inside me harden. It was almost peaceful. You said another agent disappeared, I said. Why? Dylan's voice dropped. They got too close. Found out something they weren't supposed to see. Maybe the same thing you're about to learn. Lightning flashed, white, violent, cutting the shoreline into pieces. What thing? I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, his gaze flicked past my shoulder, sharply. Corinne, move. I ducked just as a figure lunged out from behind a storage shed. Heavy footsteps pounding on wet asphalt. Dylan pushed me aside, tackling the man before he reached me. They hit the ground hard, rolling, fists cracking, grunts slicing through the wind. I scrambled back, sand sliding under my shoes. The attacker swung a metal object. Dylan blocked, barely, and the weapon clattered away. I kicked it, hard, sending it skidding across the pavement. The man broke free and bolted into the fog. Dylan groaned, hand pressed to his ribs. Told you, they escalate. You think he was sent by my father? Not your father, Dylan said, breath ragged. Someone higher. Higher. Higher than Wallace Voss. The realization crawled under my skin like ice. Cut scene. I helped Dylan to his feet. Blood trickled from a cut on his cheek. You need to file a report, I said. He shook his head. If I file anything now, they'll bury it. And you. So what do we do? You run, he said, until I give you the full file. Until I know who we're actually up against. And Corinne, once you see the truth, there's no unseeing it. Rain started pouring. Sheets of water hitting the pier. Thunder vibrating through the boards. I don't run, I said. Then prepare yourself, he replied, because this isn't about your family anymore. It's about the people who own them. Cut scene. Hours later, back in my apartment, still trembling, I opened the folder again. Not the documents. The last page. A blurry photo. Me. Walking into a Marybank. Printed timestamp. 20 minutes before I arrived. Someone had access to the bank's internal camera system. Someone predicted my moves. Someone was always one step ahead. My phone vibrated. A new message from the same unknown number. You think Connor is the problem. He isn't. He's just the bait. My pulse stopped, then restarted in a violent rhythm. This time the yacht won't sink, but their names will. 3 days. That's all it took for everything to fall apart. The rain hadn't stopped since the night Dylan was attacked. The city was drowning in secrets and runoff. Filth rising through the cracks. My apartment wasn't safe anymore. Neither was silence. By now I knew the layers. I knew who forged what, who funded who, and who was disposable. But what I hadn't known, what no report, no ledger, no wire transfer could explain, was why. Why a family would burn their daughter to keep a son above water. Why a father would weaponize love into a leash. And why Connor's yacht had to be paid for in betrayal. You ready? Dylan asked. He stood across from me in a dim motel room outside Savannah, hair wet, eyes ringed in sleepless paranoia. I nodded. Let's sink it. Cut scene. The press conference started sharp at 10 a.m. downtown. Flashbulbs. Reporters stacked like vultures with pens. Tension in the air like static clinging to skin. I stepped up to the mic, folder in hand, every document authenticated. Every timeline matched. Dylan had verified them with FinCEN. A separate whistleblower verified the shell companies. 3 banks had begun internal investigations. My name is Corinne Voss, I said. I'm the legal co-signer of the Eleanor transaction. And I'm here to tell you I never signed it. Murmurs. Gasps. I kept going. My father, Wallace Voss, orchestrated a financial shell game using my name, my records, and my presumed loyalty. My brother Connor served as the face of those assets. Yachts, properties, stocks, laundered through illegitimate channels using falsified consents. Why now? One reporter shouted. Why speak out? Because silence is what they count on, I said. And I'm done being quiet. A beat. And I'm not alone. Dylan stepped forward. Behind him, AMC whistleblower Grant Rossner appeared, battered but unbroken. A second FinCEN agent flanked him. The mood shifted. Not just family drama. Federal. Criminal. Explosive. Cut scene. By noon, subpoenas were flying like knives. A search warrant hit Wallace's estate. Connor's accounts were frozen. One of their shell corporations was connected to a federal contractor blacklisted for arms dealings. It wasn't just yachts and loans anymore. It was national security. That night, I stood alone on the Eleanor's dock. They let me on board briefly. For closure, they said, as if there's ever closure for betrayal. The deck creaked beneath me. Wind hissed through the rigging. I walked to the stern and stared down at the dark water. You can't escape blood, Wallace used to say, but you can drain its power. You can dismantle the dynasty built on it. You can choose legacy over lineage. And so I did. The final arrest came at 3:44 a.m. Wallace, in a silk robe, handcuffed on his marble steps. Connor screaming as his yacht was impounded. The story ran coast to coast. Daughter of billionaire turns witness. Bank fraud empire crumbles. Family tied to defense leaks via yacht laundering. But none of them knew the real headline. None of them knew what it meant to look in the mirror and not see a victim or a pawn or even a daughter, but a survivor. Cut scene. 3 weeks later, a quiet cafe in Asheville. Sunlight. Actual peace. Dylan slid a small USB across the table. The last file, from the investigator who vanished. I stared at it. Was it worth it? He didn't answer for a long time. Then, truth always costs more than silence, but it buys freedom. I pocketed the drive. You'll disappear again, I said. Maybe, he replied. But you won't. You'll rebuild. You already are. He left without a goodbye, just like the storm. Months passed. I sold what I could, moved inland, got a job with a transparency watchdog group. Every lie I exposed made me feel cleaner, stronger, real. One night, alone with a pen and no lawyers to forge my name, I wrote. Some people inherit wealth, others inherit rot, but both have to decide, do you preserve it or burn it down? My phone buzzed. An email from a name I didn't expect. Connor. Just one sentence. I was never supposed to be the heir. You were. They feared what you'd build if you weren't chained to them. Delete. Gone. Now, when people ask what happened to the Eleanor, I just say, she never really floated. She was a ghost ship. But me? I swim just fine.